I wanted you to see right out of the gate that it is a big pot and it is manageable to pick up. This is the large cement pot with some pom-pom echinacea. They're perennial, so they'll stay in it. And here's the container. I'll put the link in the description. And elevate your work so that you can save your legs and your back. I use sawhorses. So don't need that anymore. And again, I'm just working on smoothing that out as best I can. The part I'm working on is where the ropes went in, and there are these little channel, where the channel is, there's these little pieces, little plastic areas that are raised. And I want to smooth those down so that I can make this area much more useful for the mold. Here I'm using something similar to a wood burning tool to remove those raised plastic areas. The next step, I put my tarp, an old tarp down, and I'm going to pack under here if I can. I may have to have a little piece of wood or something to hold that up. But I'm going to pack sand there, and I'll put some sand on the top so it will release easier, and obviously over here cover these holes. And I still need to work on trying to get a little bit more of that smoothed out. But anyway, that will keep that from oozing down in there. I'm going to get ready to start to make my little shell out of shop towels. And I filled in the little holes where the rope was with a little bit of sand so that I can form those. So anyway, sorry for the background noise. The boats on the water are loud. I filled the top with a little bit of sand, just where the divot was. That'll be on the inside of the pot. My focus will be making the outside more attractive looking. And so again, I'm going to put the polypropylene shop towels in the concrete. I'm mixing that up now. I want to make it rather soupy, and I'll dip the towels in the water first, and then I will start to dip them in the concrete. I'm going to put cotton gloves underneath my disposable ones so I can take them off easier and keep my hands from getting extremely wet and sweaty. So you can get these little cotton gloves at the Dollar Tree. I don't know if they'll fit men, but you could probably find some online. But that's the way I do it. And so these will be what I dip. I'll tear. Actually, I may do a long run across both sides. So I'm going to need probably 5 towels, all in one piece. I think that will do it. Yep. So, and then I'll do 5 towels this direction. 2, 3, 4, 5. In this direction. Once I get those soaked in the concrete, and then I'll tear pieces of the towel and shove down in here once I put a little bit in this trough to form the top part of the container. So I'm going to mix my concrete. Do it by hand to make sure I can feel the consistency that I need. Vegetable oil spray to use as a release agent. So just coating it and down in this top area. More layers to the exterior walls of the, oops, so that did tear. But I got at least 2, and then I'm gonna do across the top. because those are perforated. If you had a longer piece of polypropylene that was made for this, that would be kind of cool. Just kind of smishing it there so that I'll have a bit of a layer and gush it out. And overlapping it, I found is necessary. We'll see how easy this comes off. I've worked with a few pieces now, and it seemed like it worked pretty easy to just pop right off. Okay, so on this side, I need one more piece. And I may just go ahead and overlap this on the top, since, no, that's going to come apart. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use that. And I'll just smush a little bit on this interior wall. It's the exterior wall of this, but it'll be the interior wall once it's done, if that makes sense. And I'm surprised that it's really sticking as well as it isn't. That it's not sliding off. So, do that longer ways. Said overlapping is what you want to do. And you can keep smushing on more. And just kind of laying it in and keeping it smooth and try to keep the air bubbles out. So that's the goal, and you'll do that all over the pot and then do another layer. And then when I get down into the part here on the lip, I'm just going to put a little thin layer all down into that. If I can lift the camera up and show you. Take my glove off real quick and I'll show you that. So that is the lip down in there, and I'm just putting a little bit all along there in that little trough. And then I'll go in and take pieces of the paper towel or the polypropylene shop towel and wet it, put it in the concrete just like I did on the exterior, and it will fill in that gap. So we'll see how it goes. So my second batch, again, I'm doing 2 parts of Portland cement to 3 parts of sand. And I wasn't picky on the sand. My husband went and got a half-ton of sand, and I used it for another project and saved out some for this. You could, if you wanted it to be finer piece of work, then you could use a fine sand. This worked out fine for us, what we needed it for. I was trying to amend some dirt. We brought in 40 tons of dirt, and I rented a skid steer and moved 40 tons of dirt between our yard and my neighbor's yard to make a shade garden. And so while I didn't have that, I thought, well, I'll save out enough to work on this project that I had in the back of my mind. So obviously this is dry. I had to have water in there first on this one because the pan was already wet. So I added a good bit of water to the beginning of my mixture, and I didn't mix my sand and my concrete the second time as well because, again, my pan was wet from the previous batch. But you can mix it up and fill the lumps and try to get those out. You can always add more cement. If you get it too mushy, try to not add too much water. It is deceiving. As I'm going here, I've found that if I do it in a longer strip and I just kind of accordion, fold it back on itself, get some on both sides, concrete on both sides, then I can see more what I'm doing. And as I go, this experiment, I'll learn from each process that I do. But as you see, I've got it on both sides. Then I'll flip it back and forth, and just coat it. So that's what it's like. And when you come to the perforated sections, they are not strong. They will tear apart, but it's no big deal. So here I go. I'm gonna pack some concrete on the side so I can use that like the glue. And it's not so gushy and wet that I can't do that. I'm able to do that relatively easily, and I do it in sections, a little bit at a time. And obviously my pot's not very sturdy up here, but it beats getting down on the ground. Oh, that was killing me. Better way of doing it than Well was doing it. So this has helped me tremendously, being able to work at this level. So I'm not going to put any more over the top section. I'm going to let that be like it is. So I'm going to bring this down so that it just barely dips into the troughing area. And then I'll go back and fill these areas in with single paper towels, like I said, overlapping all of that. And as you go, I see my mixture's getting, oh no, I missed a paper towel. That's what it was. Okay. Well, since I have that one split and I have this area already covered, I think I'm gonna do this. So just work with what you have going on. Obviously, everybody's experience is going to be a little different, and you'll figure it out as you go, like me. And that's why I'm sharing it, because this is not something that I have any previous experience in. I am just winging it. That's pretty much how I do everything. I wing it. Learn as I go. Always learning. Kind of smooth that in. And then go back and do a little more smooshing over the concrete. Just lift it up. Try to bring it to where you stopped. Mushing these areas that are a little bit firm, that didn't get worked out in the mixing process quite as, I mean, there'll be a little every now and then that's kind of hard. Again, you don't want this to be very thick at all. I mean, it's literally like probably 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch underneath. And it's just kind of the glue that's going to hold these first pieces together. Again, you're just trying to get a form started so that you can pop off and you can make it sturdier and heavier as you go. So here we got that. I'll put a little bit down in this trough area, so that the top of the pot won't have paper towels sticking out of the top. And even if it does, again, when you add the next layers of concrete, or cement, sorry, you can smooth that all out. And you don't have to worry about it being perfect this go round. You'll make it look, again, it's supposed to be a rough look. We're not going after the perfect pot, at least I'm not. I'm kind of wanting it to look rough and worn. Be careful too when you're using your hose not to get too much concrete cement. I don't know the right words to use as far as concrete cement. It's Portland cement mixed with sand. But you'll make sure you don't get your tools all messy, keep them clean, and your water hose, you don't want to get cement in the working mechanisms of that and mess it up. You'll be mad at yourself. So I've been trying, I got that a little too soupy, I added more water. It's still sticking pretty good. Now this piece fell off, but I'll go back in once I get that all worked on there. And I'm gonna have to make me another batch of the cement. We have a birdie, I know she's upset that I'm down here. She's got 4 little Carolina wrens in a nest, and she's not happy that I'm probably about 35 feet from her, but she don't want me down here, and I don't have another place to work, so that I'm protected from the sunshine. Anyway, I'm going to push this little piece that fell down back up now that I got this all ready to, I say I have it all ready. I don't. I need to add a little bit more to come all the way over to the edge where it, you can't see where I'm working, but I'm just bringing all of this cement all the way out so that my paper towel has a little slip, as I'll call it, of cement all the way out to where the paper towel, shop towel ends. Pulling off the one on top. Okay, here we go. I'll smooth this piece in. Like I said, it kind of reminds me of doing like a paper mache. I want to try to keep your towel stretched out. It rolls up sometimes. And just kind of smooth it and mush it in. Get your air bubbles out as much as possible. It's kind of cathartic working in it. Okay, so that is one side there. I'm gonna have to go around and get to this side. Okay, so I'm just gonna do the same thing here and bring this piece down. And again, I'm starting to run out. I'm gonna have to make some more cement. Untangle my mess, kind of accordion it back, and then bring it down. I'll keep running into, I got my trash can close by, otherwise I'm gonna mess up. My husband just cleaned the underneath the deck where I'm working, and he would not be a happy camper if I sloshed cement all over the patio. that's the other thing you need to do is protect where you're working. I buy inexpensive tarps from Harbor Freight or any place that you can get inexpensive tarps. We also have an Ollie's close by. I'll give them a plug. And they have tarps sometimes too. Alright, so that's as far as I can go with my slip. And I'll just bring this down, which is fine. You never know what kind of music you're going to get on the lake. People go by and blast. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not what I would listen to. And you want to keep trying to keep the knots. That I'm going to have to tear. Don't be afraid to tear pieces, put a little of the slip underneath it, and then push that down and smooth it out. But we still have several layers to go, so it's a process. Also, your water is going to start to pool down in here. You can use a dry paper towel to soak up some of that if it gets too much. Right now, it's not terrible. On the flip side, maybe a little difficult to see with the sunshine behind it, but I put a layer, and like I said, I'm really surprised at the consistency is not slipping and sliding too bad. It is a little bit right now, but once I drape this down over it and mash the towel into it, it seems to hold that in place. And again, you want to kind of smooth it out, get the air bubbles out as much as possible. And I overlapped on the top of it. And this is going to be not a perfect pot. It is going to be very rugged looking. I'm picking up a little bit, but since I'm going to put another layer underneath this area here, I don't want to add too much more water. And again, this is such an experiment. I had watched a guy, I'll have to find his channel. He's from Ecuador, I believe, and he makes these pots, and they have the access to a material that's specifically for concrete that I don't believe that we have here in the United States. So I kept doing some research, and the first thing I tried was a disaster. It didn't absorb at all, it didn't work, but when I had Googled products that were made out of polypropylene, I came up with landscape fabric, and that did not work. It repelled the water, obviously, and it did not work at all. So I realized it immediately that it was not the product that I needed for this type of project. So we'll go ahead and drop this down and kind of gush it, smush it out. And that's the way I will do the whole rest of the pot. Now, I did put a little bit down in this trough area, and now I'm going to let that paper towel or that shop towel go down into that, and then I'm going to put a little bit more in there and it will be rather lumpy, and then I'll continue to form it with more concrete once this shell works out and dries, so that I can have something to work off of. But that's coming along, and that's how I'll do it. And I'll do at least 2 or 3 more layers of the cement like this, and then I will let it dry for at least 24 to 48 hours, depending on how it's going. Then I'll pop it off and then start adding more material of concrete, depending on how well it holds up. I may have to strengthen the walls with a little fiberglass. So where the water's gotten down in the trough area, I'm using high strength dry concrete to soak up the water and make the lip more strong. And it's got the fiberglass and more aggregate, but I can smooth it out after this curing time happens. And we'll see how that does. That helps soak up some of this moisture that's accumulating down in this trough. I don't even have to mix it with water. Got an air bubble right there. That's what I was saying, don't be afraid to tear it. And repair. Just fill it in. Use a little dry mix of that because that felt a little hollow. Okay. And I'll cover this with plastic and let it cure for a bit. And I may come back in and add a couple more layers of the paper towels. Okay, before I go in, it's starting to rain. I just went around, coated 3 layers, and then smoothed it best I could, and then went back over it with any leftovers. But then I used down here when the water puddled, and it was pretty significant. I kept using dry towels to try to soak up some of that, and then I was like, why don't I just take some higher strength dry concrete and throw it down in here and see what happens. So that's what I did. I have a little bit of slumping here because I went back in with my leftovers and slopped it on. So for now I'm gonna let that set up, and then my next layer I can do more refining of the outer texture that I want. But again, it's gonna be outside. I want it to have kind of a rough look. And as it starts to set up, I might come in and do another 1 or 2 layers of the towels just to strengthen the sides. But for now, I'm gonna take a break and see how it goes. But that's how it looks right now. And it's got 3 or 4 layers, probably 3 layers of paper towels. And then, like I said, I let them drip down into here in the trough area to give it more strength, and then came back in with some of the higher strength dry and soak that up, and it has fiberglass in it, so hopefully that won't crack off. It should do great. We'll see how it does. This is the next morning, and I do see a few places where it slumped and I can see the towel through it, so I'll go back in and patch some of those areas. But it's still green enough that I can knock off, but it's hard enough, I think, that I could remove it without it. Here's another little area, and right along here that I'll go back in. And I knew these areas, there's a little area right there, didn't have quite enough, but it's still green enough that I can knock off some of the high points, but still go back in. So I've got a shell, and I think there's an area right here and here that's a little too thin. Maybe there and there. I think that it's doing pretty well. But I'll go back in and add a little bit more to these areas to strengthen it and see how it goes. Again, this is a learning process. I'm not sure how it's going to hold up. We will test it out. Today I'm going to assess and use the concrete bonding adhesive. I'm going to look and see where areas that I'm a little bit concerned about. I'm going to apply a little bit to areas where I want to strengthen the wall, and I'm just brushing it on with a big chip brush, and then I'm going to go back in and add some support to these areas. But overall, I mean, it's really pretty solid. The areas where I think that maybe I can see a little bit of the blue coming through, or if I feel like that definitely has a little soft spot, I'm gonna have to be careful. I don't want this to make it hard for me to get this out of the mold. Also, in this next layer, I'm going to add a bit of the bonding adhesive to the water, and I'm going to do small batches as I go in and add to the exterior to strengthen the walls. I've left this and it's dripped down, so I don't know that I need that, but I'm going to do it anyway just as an extra precaution. And then again, I'm going to go in and use the cement with some fiberglass in it to strengthen those areas. This is day 2. I've tried a couple of different ways to get another layer on as smooth as possible. I'm using my chip brush. Again, I added some of the bonding agent. I made it soupy enough that I can use this to spread it on more evenly. I was trying to get it on there with my hands, and then in the areas where I feel like I need to build it up more, that's what I'm doing and smoothing it out. So this seems to be working well for me right now. And it's an experiment, it's a learning process. I tried some of the high strength concrete, and I did not like how grainy it was. It was had too much aggregate in it. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just kind of eyeballing the areas where it needed a little bit more, and I'm hoping that the bonding agent will help it hold up. But overall, I think it's pretty cool looking. And I'm hoping that it works. And I don't want to take it off. I'm using my hands when I can and trying to smooth out and make it a little bit more strong, have some strength to the walls. And one of the things that I think that I like about it is that the big brush helps smooth it out, and then when I get down to the lip part, I can knock off the excess, and it helps me smooth this nicely, I think. And then as it starts to dry, I can knock off any of the areas that I don't like the texture of. But my goal also is to cover the pot in some buttermilk and try to encourage moss growing, because again, I'm looking for a very outdoor, natural look. This is going to go in between us and our neighbors where it's rather tree-lined area and it's close to the lake. And I think that it will be a nice big pot once I get it finished that can hold some things, that perennials that will stay year-round. That's my goal. But overall, I think it's been a fun process learning how it does. And I know this is not conventional concrete work at all. And who knows if it'll even last very long, but we'll see. What it looks like now. So what I did is I just took the brush and I tried to eyeball and add to the sides of the pot to areas that I thought were weak. And then as it starts to cure, I'll go back in. If I want to knock any off or add any more, then I'll do that. So I had to end up breaking the pot apart. It was so brittle from overwintering and it had already cracked, and I repaired it to make the mold. But once I broke it to this point, I could get it out. And there's the sand that I had used for the bottom to keep it from sticking, and now I'm gonna have to repair these walls just like I figured I would. I didn't get it quite all the way coated with enough on the interior, and then I'm gonna patch up the area where the handles were and hopefully get it looking a little bit better. So again, this is a learning experience. This will chip away anything that's not sturdy, and then I'll go back in with another layer like I did on the outside, just to cover these and keep it from getting water on the inside of it, and then I'll treat it. So another day of sitting and curing, and I should be able to work on finishing it. But it's a big old pot. Oh my goodness. Yep. I've gone inside of the container and trying to smooth the inside out. And then on the outside, I don't want this lip to be so pronounced, so I'm going to smooth this with a layer of the concrete mixture. So for the lip, you may not want to do what I did, but I did wet this. This is the driest. This is where I added new mixture, and I used the bonding agent in each mixture that I made. Used the heel of my hand, just balled some of it up. It's almost clay-like texture. I went in and just smoothed along here and used the heel of my hand to form so that this looks like a thicker pot. It makes it look heavier than it is, but it's not that heavy. I didn't put enough water on that. There we go. And I'm able to come back in with a chip brush and add the brush texture, and also help smooth it out a little bit more. And keep misting. But overall, I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's not heavy. And again, those little fibers you can burn off because they are the polypropylene, and it works. I'm just eyeballing it. Mixed up some more of my cement mixture with the Portland cement, the sand, and water. I used 2 parts of Portland cement to 3 parts of sand, and then I just made enough or put enough moisture into it to make it almost like clay, so I can ball it up in my hand. And I put a little bit of, I ordered some polypropylene fibers, and I got those from Amazon. I'll link those. I marked it so I'll know the difference. This is not fiberglass. It's probably polypropylene. And so I put it on the pot on a piece of wood on my horses, and then I put the pot, it's not even, I need to straighten it up, but I wanted you to be able to see it's on a turntable, and that way I can turn it and work the cement with my hand almost like clay. And I just wanted this lip not to be so pronounced so that it didn't look like some kind of feed trough or a piece of plastic container. I wanted it to look, like I said, more rustic, and I wanted the lip of it to make it look heavier. But I literally can still lift this myself. It's heavy, but it's not as heavy as it would have been had I made it solid cement. So, and I smoothed out the inside well enough to get the polypropylene towels from not protruding or showing through. And again, this is going to be filled with dirt, so I'm not really worried about the finish. I'm not worried about the finish at all being super smooth. I just wanted it to be sturdy. And so the polypropylene fibers look like a little hair, and you can see them. I can come back through, I believe, with my torch or with a lighter and melt those off. So we'll try that here in a little bit. That's exactly what you want to do. I'm just using a lighter. It's a little windy at the moment. So that's what you want to do. You can go back in if you see any of those little fibers exposed. You can melt them off and they're gone immediately. So that's the way to get rid of the little fibers, and they help support the concrete. So the bottom is probably about a half an inch to I'd say a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch thick. So it's pretty sturdy. And it's funny because I did that with the towels, it came out in rings, but that'll be an adequate drainage hole. There we go. There's the total thickness of what I cut out. it made it down to its final resting place, and I wanted y'all to see that I was able to lift it up. I'm guessing between 35 and 40 pounds. I need to weigh it so I can let you all know. I may do another video later, do some decorative stuff on it or paint it with the buttermilk to make the moss grow on the sides. But I was lucky I didn't face plant. I had my water shoes on and I had them like flip-flops on the back, so I was walking a little funny. But it is manageable, and if I had made it out of solid concrete or cement, it would have been probably 100 to 120 pounds, I'm guessing, for a 20-gallon container. So it ended up with these pom-pom echinaceas. I did not plant them because it's new concrete and it can burn the roots with the alkalinity. So I'll wait about 30 days and seal it. Thanks so much for watching. This precious little plant. Look at those sweet babies. They're Carolina wrens, and the mama's having a fit. I accidentally found them inside of this metal planter. She decided to build underneath or had set something temporarily. Oh,